One man let her dry her soaked clothes in his home. Now she calls him husband. Rain moved across the colony in straight, cold lines, steady enough to blur the edges of buildings and flatten every distant sound into a low wash. Rainside Terrace sat halfway up the vertical district, steel walkways, stacked apartments, pipes that cut across the walls like exposed ribs. Everything smelled of wet metal and recycled air. Cade Marin walked the narrow mid-level corridor with a purposeful stride. His shift had ended 20 minutes ago, but the habit of scanning his surroundings stayed with him. His eyes checked the seams in the panels, the pooling water near the drain points, the faint vibration underfoot that told him the mag tram 2 levels below had just passed. He carried an inspection case with a cracked latch, and his thumb rested on the worn groove near the handle, an old reflex from years of orbital recon, where tools had to be reachable without thinking. He felt tired but steady. His lower back ached from crouching in service shafts all day, and a thin line of grime sat under one fingernail despite 3 washes. He liked this kind of work: direct, physical, predictable. No command hierarchy telling him whose life counted. No distant planners treating entire districts like numbers. He rounded the turn toward the row of residential blocks and heard something scrape. Then a bucket rolled across the floor and hit the wall with a hollow clank. He slowed. Under the dull light of a flickering strip, a woman knelt on the walkway with a brush in her hand. Her green skin shone where the rain had soaked her. Long gold hair hung in wet strands over her chest and back. The amber dress she wore clung tight to her body, the fabric so thin it looked one step away from tearing. One strap slid down her arm each time she moved. She pushed the brush hard into the floor, scrubbing between the panel seams. Her knees rested in a slurry of soap and cold water. She kept her head down. Above her stood Mara D. Thin, the lodging owner. Mid-40s, thin face, lips pressed tight. She wore a waterproof coat that looked new compared to the rusting doorframe behind her. She tapped her boot impatiently and adjusted her hairband with a sharp tug. "You missed that entire section," Mara said. "I swear, if I want something done right, I have to point to every square." Cade watched the exchange for 2 seconds, long enough to feel irritation settle deep in his chest. It wasn't loud cruelty. It was casual, daily accepted. He stepped forward. Mara straightened the instant she noticed him. "Inspector Marin," she said, switching tone as quickly as flipping a switch. "I didn't expect the district to schedule checks this late." "I'm walking home," he said. She forced a laugh. "Well, you see, I keep the walkway spotless." He looked at the wall inside her doorway. A dark, spreading stain marked the bottom corner. "That leak again," he said. "Log it before it reaches the wiring." She dismissed the comment with a wave. "The district cuts funding every cycle. I do what I can." Her eyes flicked toward the kneeling woman. "And she earns her room. I give her a roof. She cleans. Simple." The woman paused in her scrubbing. She didn't raise her head, but Cade saw her fingers tighten around the brush handle. He felt anger, the kind that built slowly, not the fast kind. He approached until he was close enough to see the shiver in the woman's shoulders. "What's your name?" he asked. The woman lifted her head slightly. Water dripped from her hair onto the floor. "Linera," she said quietly. Her voice carried a restrained tone, careful, controlled, as if she had learned that speaking too boldly made things worse. "Stand up a moment," Mara snapped. "Inspector needs to see your face." Linera rose. Her dress stuck to her thighs. The cold had turned her skin clammy. She folded her arms across her chest to create some barrier between herself and the open walkway. Cade looked directly at Mara. "She doesn't need to stand for you." Mara's face tightened. "I'm managing a house on no budget. If she wants a dry place to sleep, she works. That's how this block survives." Linera lowered her gaze. She looked embarrassed, tired, resigned. It wasn't the exhaustion of physical work. It was the exhaustion of being seen this way. Cade stepped closer, careful not to crowd her. "You're shaking," he said to her. "I'll warm later," she murmured. He felt protective. He didn't act on impulse often, but this moment struck the part of him that had left the orbital service, because he refused to watch preventable harm and call it routine. You can finish inside her overhang, he said to Mara. No reason to keep her in the rain. She'll track mud, Mara retorted. You always assume I'm the villain here. I assume you know the difference between work and humiliation, he said. She didn't respond. She stepped back in her doorway and pulled her coat tighter. If she collapses and I lose my labor, that's on you, she muttered, then shut the door. For a moment, only the rain and the brush's handle remained between them. Linnea knelt again and reached for the bucket, but her hands shook from the cold. She gripped the rim and steadied her breath. Cade crouched beside her. You need to stop, he said plainly. I'm almost done, she whispered. You're soaked through. This is not work anymore. It's damage. Linnea hesitated, confused by his concern. If I leave it unfinished, she'll... Finish it tomorrow, he said, undercover. She studied him, unsure how to respond to a tone that wasn't demanding, wasn't pitying, just firm. She looked down at the soapy water around her knees. It's not your problem. It is right now, he said, because I'm standing here. His voice left no space for argument. She blinked, unsettled but grateful. He stood, adjusted the strap of his inspection case, and continued home. He didn't look back, though he felt her watching him until the corridor turned. His block was quieter. Families had shut their windows against the rain. A cooking vent released a faint smell of grilled meat from 3 doors down. A child laughed somewhere behind a wall. Cade unlocked his door. Warm, dry air brushed his face. His apartment felt as it always did, small but organized, steady, safe. He set his case down, hung his coat, and lit the heater to a low setting. The coil glowed orange and filled the room with controlled warmth. He filled the kettle and set it on the stove, the flame flickering blue. 3 knocks sounded. He turned. The knocks came again, soft, careful, unsure. The kind of sound someone makes when they expect the door to stay closed. He opened it. Linnea stood under the overhang, dripping. Her dress darkened fully from the rain, clinging to every curve. Her hair stuck to her cheek. Her toes curled against the cold panel floor. She looked quiet, scared, determined. Inspector Marin, she said. I'm sorry. I know this is wrong hour. What do you need? He asked. Her throat tightened. She swallowed before speaking. My room is wet. The wall leaks. The floor soaked through the mat. I cannot lie down in this. I only asked to hang my clothes near your heater. I can stand by the door until it dries. Then I will leave. He recognized the tone. Someone shrinking their request to make it easier to refuse. You're freezing, he said. She shook her head. I won't step further inside. Just the rack. No trouble. He felt empathy. She looked exhausted, cornered, trying to keep dignity despite her situation. He made the decision immediately. Come in, he said. Her eyes widened with caution. Inspector, I don't want misunderstanding. I can't repay anything you expect. If you want something from me, say it now. He met her stare directly. I want nothing. I'm offering heat and a place to dry your clothes. Her breath caught in her chest. She studied him for signs of hidden intention, but he didn't move closer or shift his tone. I don't understand why, she whispered. Because you asked, he said, and because letting you freeze outside my door would sit wrong with me. She stepped inside slowly, as if checking each inch for hidden terms. Warm air reached her skin. She shivered once. He closed the door gently behind her. She stood near the heater, uncertain what to do with her arms. He retrieved a thick towel from the cabinet and held it out. Dry yourself, he said. Hang the dress on the rack. Her fingers brushed his when she took the towel. Her skin was ice cold. Thank you, she said, voice thin. He didn't watch her undress. He walked to the kitchenette, giving her space. He focused on preparing the mugs while listening to the small sounds behind him. The rustle of wet fabric, the clink of the rack, the quiet breath she let out once she was covered. She approached him wearing the towel wrapped around her body. Wet hair dripped on her collarbone. He looked toward the bathroom. There's hot water. Use the shower. You'll warm faster. She held the towel tighter. I didn't ask for that. I'm offering it. You decide. She hesitated. He saw a flash of fear in her eyes. A learned fear, an old one. If I go in there, she said quietly, and you change your terms, I can't protect myself. His voice stayed steady. If you hear me step toward that door while you're in the shower, you can scream loud enough for half this block. But you won't need to. I will stay here." He meant every word. Linera watched him for several seconds, searching his expression. She found calm, intention, and nothing else. "I'll try the water," she said. She walked to the bathroom, feet leaving faint wet prints on the floor. She slid the door almost shut, leaving a small gap so she could hear the room. Water began to run. Cade made 2 mugs of hot coffee, adding larn fruit concentrate to one. Steam rose in thin spirals. He sat on the edge of the couch, listening to the steady sound of the shower and the low hiss of the rain outside. The apartment felt different now. Not disturbed, but occupied in a way that made more sense than he expected. He thought about why she was here and why he opened the door. He had left the orbital service because of decisions made far above the people they affected. He wanted a life where he chose what stood in front of him, where he could do something immediate, concrete, human. Tonight, a woman in a soaked dress had stood in front of him. He planned to guide her through the steps she needed to regain stability, warmth tonight, safety tomorrow, a path forward when she was ready, even if she didn't fully understand it yet. Steam drifted under the bathroom door. The apartment grew warmer, softer. Outside, the walkway where she had scrubbed still reflected the lights. Inside, she had a towel, heat, and a door she controlled. Cade waited, steady and patient, until she was ready to step out. Steam drifted out from the narrow gap in the bathroom door, thick enough to soften the light inside. The water finally shut off. Cade listened to the subtle shift in the floor, her bare feet moving slowly, cautiously, adjusting the towel around her. He stayed on the couch and didn't look toward the hallway, giving her control over every step she chose to take. When the door slid open, Linera stepped out with her hair still wet, but no longer tangled. Water clung to the ends and slid down her back. The towel wrapped around her body reached mid-thigh. She held the top edge with one hand, as if making sure it wouldn't slip. Her posture was straighter now, though a faint tension remained in her shoulders. The warm air hit her skin, and she released a quiet breath she had been holding. Cade nodded toward the mug on the low table. "This one's sweeter," he said, "in case you prefer something mild after the cold." She hesitated before approaching, checking whether the distance between them stayed the same. When she saw he didn't move toward her, she relaxed slightly and reached for the mug. Her fingers brushed the ceramic, testing the heat before lifting it. She raised it to her lips, but paused. "You made 2, she said. "One's mine," he answered. She took a sip. The larn fruit concentrate left a soft, bright tang on her tongue. The coffee was hot enough to warm her throat all the way down. She lowered the mug and looked at him for the first real time since entering the apartment. "You said something downstairs," she said quietly. "You said I came here instead of standing in the market arcades and waiting for whoever waved me upstairs." "Yes. How did you know I've been avoiding that place?" He leaned back into the couch. "I've been in this block 3 years. I see who waits under the arcades. I see who disappears behind curtains and comes back wearing the same tired look. I see who carries laundry to the upper doors and who avoids eye contact with the wrong people." Linera looked down at the mug, absorbing his words. "I used to carry laundry," she said. "Mara paid me in food scraps in that room. I didn't have many choices." "You have one tonight," he said. She looked up again. Her eyes held a mix of gratitude and guarded suspicion. "Why aren't you asking anything from me?" she asked. "No one helps for free here." Cade rested his elbows on his knees. "I didn't leave the service to become another person who trades safety for a body. If I wanted someone for the night, I'd go to the arcades. That's not what I'm doing." Her chin trembled once before she steadied herself. "Then what do you expect?" "Nothing," he said. "Warm up. Dry your clothes. Sit if you want. Leave when you're ready." Her fingers tightened around the mug. She didn't hide the shake this time, whether from cold or the shock of hearing something unfamiliar. He couldn't tell. She moved to the small space near the heater and crouched to check her dress on the rack. The amber fabric was still heavy with water, but no longer dripping. She touched the frayed strap, then withdrew her hand, embarrassed. "You can borrow something dry," Cade said. He opened a drawer and pulled out one of his dark shirts and a pair of loose lounge shorts. These will be large on you, but they'll keep you warm. Linnea stared at the clothes. If I wear them, people will think I belong here. He didn't react immediately. He understood why that mattered. Do you want people to think you don't? He asked. She took a slow breath. I don't want to cause trouble for you. You won't. She didn't take the clothes right away. She stepped closer, examining his expression with the same caution she had used in the hallway. When she saw no impatience, no hidden bargain, she reached for the shirt first. I'll change in the bathroom, she said. She walked back, her steps quiet and deliberate. The towel stayed tight around her chest until the door closed behind her again. Cade waited, sipping his coffee. The warmth settled into his chest. He looked around the apartment. Its clean surfaces, simple lines, the small heater that hummed softly. He hadn't planned for anyone else to occupy this space, but now that someone did, the room felt less hollow. When Linnea emerged again, she looked completely different. His shirt reached mid-thigh on her and slipped off one shoulder, exposing the soft curve of her skin. The shorts hung low on her hips, tied as tightly as she could manage. Her hair draped down her back in damp waves. She stood barefoot on the warm floor, uncertain what to do with her hands. Does it look strange? She asked, tugging lightly at the collar. It looks comfortable, he said. She searched his face for any trace of mockery and found none. Linnea walked toward the couch, but didn't sit until he shifted slightly to give her more room. She settled at one end, crossing her legs and pulling the shirt hem over her knees. The gesture was shy, but not fearful, an attempt to maintain dignity. Cade set his mug down. How long have you been working for Mara? 8 months, she said. Before that, I lived 2 districts north, a shared lodging with 6 others. They moved on. I didn't have enough credits to follow. Mara offered a room in exchange for labor. And the room leaks? It always leaked, she said. Tonight was just worse. Cade leaned back. You shouldn't have to sleep on a floor that floods. Linnea gave a dry laugh. Most people in this district sleep on worse. Doesn't make it acceptable. She looked at him again, holding his gaze longer than before. Her breathing slowed. The tension in her shoulders eased slightly. You left the orbital service, she said. Everyone knows that patch on your old jacket. People don't leave unless something breaks them. He didn't answer immediately. He understood why she asked. If she stayed in his home even for a few hours, she deserved to know what kind of man he was. I left because decisions were made far from the people who paid for them, he said. I wanted a life where the thing in front of me mattered more than the rules above me. Linnea nodded as if something clicked into place. That's why you opened the door. That's why, he said. Silence settled between them, warm and steady. Rain hit the balcony railing outside in a soft, constant rhythm. The heater clicked as it readjusted its temperature. Linnea lifted her mug again and took another sip. This is good, she said. Sweeter than anything I've had in a long time. It's Larn fruit concentrate, he said. Not expensive, just hard to find fresh. She smiled, small and cautious but genuine. That shift, her shoulders relaxing, her eyes softening, pulled his attention in a way he hadn't expected. He recognized the start of trust forming in her, fragile and real. Do you want to stay until morning? He asked. You don't have to decide now, but you don't have to go back into the rain. Linnea stared into her mug, then lifted her eyes slowly. If I stay, what will people say? That you stayed somewhere dry, he answered. Nothing more. She looked at him, searching again for the hidden cost. And if I need more than one night? She asked. Then we'll talk about it, he said, not as debt, as choice. Her chest rose with a deep breath, the kind someone takes when the fear inside them loosens its grip. For the first time since stepping into his apartment, she leaned back into the couch, letting her legs settle comfortably beneath her. Outside, the rain continued. Inside, the warmth deepened, and for the first time that night, Linnea allowed herself to stop bracing for what the world might demand next. Linnea stayed seated on the couch, her legs drawn under her as the oversized shirt fell loosely around her frame. The fabric shifted when she breathed, sliding off one shoulder until she tugged it back up. Warmth gathered around her from the heater and the steam still drifting from the bathroom. She looked calmer now, but her eyes kept moving across the room, checking the corners, the windows, the door. Not with fear, but with a habit formed from living in places where safety changed from hour to hour. Kate stood and walked to the kitchenette. The motion made Linnea straighten, unsure if she should follow. "You can sit," he said over his shoulder. "I'm just making something to eat." She blinked at him. "For both of us?" "Yes." Her fingers tightened around her mug. "I haven't eaten since morning," she admitted. "Mara gives food at odd hours." He pulled out a small pack of preserved meat slices, a container of Varen root chips, and a sealed portion of greens. He arranged them on a metal plate with the efficient movements of someone who had spent years preparing quick meals between long shifts. "You'll eat now," he said. He warmed the meat on the pan, and the apartment filled with a savory smell that made Linnea sit up straighter. She watched him closely, not because she distrusted him, but because the simple act of someone cooking near her felt unfamiliar. "You live alone?" she asked softly. 3 years, he said. "No partner, no roommates." He paused, glancing at her. "Quiet suits me." She looked down at her hands. "I lived with 6 others once. Before I came to this district." "What happened?" "They left when the rent increased," she said. "I couldn't pay my share. Mara was the only person offering anything that kept me off the street." Cade plated the warm food and brought it to the table. He placed one plate in front of her, then sat across from her. She hesitated only a moment before leaning forward. The first bite stopped her breath. The warmth, the salt, the texture, real meat, not scraps, made her close her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, she looked embarrassed. "Sorry," she said. "It's been a long time since I tasted something clean." "You don't need to apologize," he said. They ate quietly for a minute. Linnea took careful bites until she realized he wasn't watching her plate or counting how much she consumed. Only then did she start eating at a normal pace. After a few minutes, she spoke again, voice thoughtful. "You said you've seen me in the market." "Yes," he answered, "carrying laundry bags, moving crates, always alone." Her expression tightened slightly. "People notice more than I think." "People notice less than you fear," he said. "But I notice what's in front of me." She studied him carefully. "When I first saw you downstairs, you didn't look surprised." "I wasn't," he said. "You've been working too hard with too little support. Something was going to give. Tonight was the night." She lowered her fork. "You said earlier you want nothing from me. Is that still true?" "Yes." She exhaled slowly, the air leaving her chest in a way that looked like relief mixed with exhaustion. She leaned back into the couch again, allowing the oversized shirt to fall loosely without adjusting it. "When I was cleaning outside Mara's door," she said, "I kept thinking, if I collapse, no one will notice until morning." "I noticed," he said. She looked at him for several long seconds. Her gaze softened in a way that wasn't flirtation. It was recognition, something shifting inside her. "You could have walked past," she said. "I don't walk past people drowning in plain sight," he replied. Her lips pressed together briefly. "Is that why you left the service?" He nodded. Too many orders that said, "walk past." Linnea absorbed that. She understood the weight behind the words without needing the details. A quiet moment settled between them, warm and steady. She set her empty plate aside. "If I sleep here tonight," she said slowly. "Where?" "Take the bed," he said. Her eyebrows rose. "And you?" "The couch." "You shouldn't do that," she said. "This is your home. And you're the one who worked in cold water all day," he answered. "Your body needs rest." Linnea looked away, her jaw tightening. "I don't want to feel like charity." "You're not." Her eyes lifted back to him. "Then what am I?" He answered without hesitation. "A guest." The word landed heavily. Her shoulders lowered as if a weight slid off them. Kate stood and gathered the dishes. "You can rest once your clothes are dry." Linnea rose from the couch, the oversized shirt brushing against her thighs. She walked to the drying rack and touched her dress again. Still damp, but no longer soaked. "I don't know what tomorrow looks like," she said quietly. "You don't have to decide tonight," he replied. She turned toward him while standing near the heater. The warm light reflected off her damp skin and made the golden tint in her hair brighter. "Why are you doing this for me?" she asked. He wiped his hands on a towel and faced her fully. "Because you asked for the smallest thing," he said, and it told me you haven't been given anything larger in a long time. Linnea swallowed, her throat tightening. She didn't look away. A soft beep sounded from the wall panel, the heat cycle adjusting. The sudden warmth made her step closer to the heater instinctively. The shirt slipped off her shoulder again, exposing the slope of her collarbone. She didn't fix it this time. Cade noticed but didn't comment or avert his eyes. Instead, he nodded toward the couch. "You can sit where it's warmer." She hesitated, then moved toward him and the couch, stopping within arm's reach. Her voice grew softer, almost steady. "If I am a guest," she said, "then may I stay until morning without asking again?" "Yes," he said, "you may." She held his gaze a long moment, then gave a small nod and settled onto the couch again, this time closer to him than before. Rain continued to fall outside, steady and unbroken. Inside, the distance between them had changed in a way neither tried to undo. Linnea rested against the side of the couch, her knees tucked close, the oversized shirt draping unevenly across her legs. The warmth from the heater reached her slowly, easing the tension in her arms. She watched Cade finish wiping down the counter, the quiet rhythm of his movements steady and precise. Outside, the rain pressed against the balcony door in thin vertical lines. She shifted, pulling her damp hair over one shoulder. "Do you usually cook for yourself every night?" she asked. "Most nights," he said. "Easier than buying meals on shift. And I don't like crowds." "That part one guest," she said, a faint hint of dry humor touching her voice for the first time. He set the cloth aside and came toward the couch. Instead of sitting immediately, he checked the drying rack again, running 2 fingers along the hem of her dress to test the fabric. "Another hour," he said. "Then it'll be dry enough to wear." Linnea nodded, but didn't take her eyes off him. "When I knocked on your door," she said, "I thought you'd tell me to go away." "You looked like you didn't have other options," he answered. She hesitated. "What if you hadn't been home?" He sat on the opposite end of the couch, leaving a respectful space between them. "Then you would have found a worse option. Or none." Her jaw tightened briefly. "Mara would not have let me back in." "Why?" "She said I used too much water today," Linnea said. "Said the city charges her for runoff." She was angry the moment she opened her door. Cade absorbed that without speaking. He hadn't seen the argument earlier, but he had seen the aftermath in Linnea's posture and soaked dress. It matched everything she was saying now. She shifted again, pulling at the collar of his shirt where it had fallen low on her shoulder. "She also told me last week that if I didn't work faster, she'd replace me. As if I'm equipment that wears out." "You're not equipment," he said plainly. Linnea's eyes softened. Her fingers relaxed around the fabric. A sudden shiver ran through her, her body remembering the cold, even though the room was warm now. She pulled her legs closer under the shirt. Cade reached for the folded blanket on the side chair and held it out. She took it slowly, brushing his hand as she did. The contact was brief but intentional. She spread the blanket over her legs and nodded once in thanks. Silence formed again, but it was comfortable. She watched the steam rise faintly from her hair. He watched the way her breathing slowed once she settled into the warmth. "Cade," she said quietly, "what exactly is your job now? You said you inspect storm drains, but you said it like it was only part of it." He leaned back. "I monitor runoff systems. Check structural supports. Keep this level from flooding when rain gets heavy." He paused. "And sometimes I handle reports when people fall through gaps in the system." Linnea studied him. "You sound like you care about people more than drains." "People live next to the drains," he said. "Ignoring one means ignoring the other." She absorbed that, then tucked the thought away. Her gaze drifted toward the balcony door. Rain streaked across the surface in thin paths. The noise outside was steady, a constant hum. She watched it for a long moment. "I didn't grow up in rain," she said. "My home district was warm, dry, bright even at night. Moving here felt like punishment at first." He looked at her. "Why did you move here?" She blinked once, then lowered her voice. "Work. My family couldn't support me. I left to find something better. But I wasn't prepared for how different this district would feel." "Different how?" "Lonely," she said. Her honesty landed quietly between them. Cade shifted slightly, not away from her, but toward her. You don't have to be alone tonight. Linnea breathed in slowly. Her hand tightened on the blanket edge. She turned her head, meeting his eyes directly for the first time since sitting down. You said earlier that I'm a guest, she said. Does that mean I'm allowed to sleep without worrying someone will open a door on me? Yes. And you won't expect anything in return? No. Her throat moved as she swallowed. She glanced down at her bare feet on the warm floor. I'm not used to this. You will be, he said quietly. Her expression shifted, surprised, then thoughtful. She sat with that for a moment. Then, cautiously, she leaned a little toward him. Not close enough to assume anything, but close enough to show she trusted him now more than she did an hour ago. Her voice lowered. And where will you sleep? The couch, he said. She looked at the small space beside him. It's not large enough for you. I've slept in worse. That doesn't mean you should, she replied softly. He paused, considering her tone. She wasn't challenging him. She was trying to understand why he would choose discomfort for her sake. She shifted the blanket aside, slightly, and gestured toward the heater. Your bed is warm. The couch isn't. You need the warmth more. Her lips parted slightly. You don't know that. That wet dress told me enough, he said. Linnea lowered her eyes, feeling the truth in his words. After a moment, she spoke again, barely above a whisper. Would it bother you if I slept near you instead of alone? He turned his head, meeting her gaze with calm certainty. If that's what makes you feel safe, then no. It wouldn't bother me. She nodded once, her jaw setting with a quiet decision. Then I'd rather sleep here. Not in your bed. Not alone in a room. I don't know. The choice was clear and steady. Kate didn't move closer. He let her take the next step if she wanted. She didn't move closer either, but she didn't shift away. She rested her head lightly against the backrest, an inch nearer to him than before. Rain continued its steady fall. The heater hummed. The apartment felt smaller, warmer, more inhabited. Linnea's eyes drifted half-closed. If Mara asks tomorrow where I slept, what should I say? Tell her the truth, he said. That you helped me? That you chose where to sleep? He corrected. She breathed out slowly, as if that answer settled something inside her. Tonight, she wasn't a cleaner kneeling on cold panels. She wasn't a tenant fighting for space. She wasn't someone the district overlooked. She was simply here, warm, safe, next to someone who had decided she mattered. And she didn't move from that spot. The morning light was soft and muted, filtered through the thin balcony curtains. It didn't brighten the room. It simply changed the color of the shadows. Linnea woke first. She lay curled on one end of the couch, wrapped in the blanket Cade had given her the night before. His oversized shirt hung off one shoulder, the fabric warm from sleep. For a few seconds, she stayed still, listening. The rain had eased into a gentler rhythm. The heater hummed, and from the kitchen, a quiet clink of metal against ceramic. Kate was already up. She pushed herself upright slowly, letting the blanket fall onto her lap. Her legs were bare, warm from the heater, but she still wrapped her arms around herself out of habit. She wasn't used to waking without worrying who might see her. Kate stood at the counter, stirring something in a small pot. He wore the same dark inspection shirt as yesterday, sleeves rolled to his forearms. His hair was damp from a quick wash. He glanced toward her when he heard her shift. You slept, he said. You noticed. She rubbed her eyes, voice rough from the night. You didn't startle once. Most people do the first night in a strange place. It wasn't strange, she said quietly. Not after the rain. He nodded and returned to the pot. Food will be ready soon. She rose from the couch, the shirt brushing mid-thigh. Her bare feet made soft sounds on the floor. She hesitated near the counter, watching him move. What are you making? Zyron broth. Light. Warm. Easier on an empty stomach. Her eyes dropped. I didn't mean for you to feed me. I only needed to dry my clothes. I know what you said, he replied. But you're here now. He didn't say it with authority. He said it with certainty. Linnea reached out and touched the edge of the counter, steadying herself. You don't even know me. I know enough to feed someone who worked all day in the rain, he said. A small breath escaped her, something between relief and disbelief. He poured the broth into 2 cups. The steam carried a sharp, earthy smell. She held her cup with both hands, letting the heat settle into her fingers. You do this every morning? When I can. For yourself. And for whoever needs it, he answered. She glanced up. You say that like it's normal. It's normal for me. They sat at the small table. He in the chair, she on the edge of the low bench, legs folded to one side. The blanket still lay on the couch, but she didn't go back for it. The heater kept the room comfortably warm, and something in Cade's steady presence made her feel less exposed. She sipped the broth, careful and slow. What time is your shift? Late morning. I still have hours. Then why wake so early? Habit. He looked toward the balcony door. And I wanted to check on your dress. It's almost dry. She followed his gaze. Her Soak Street wrap hung neatly from the rack. The faded amber fabric looked less miserable now, though the torn strap was more obvious in the light. She set her cup down. Do you think I should leave before your neighbors see me? He met her eyes directly. Do you want to leave? She opened her mouth to answer, but nothing came out at first. She leaned her elbows on her knees, fingers gripping the cup again. I don't know what I want yet. You don't have to decide right now. Her throat tightened at the simplicity of that answer. She stared at her hands, noticing how steady they were. No tremor, no cold. She took another sip. Last night, you didn't ask me why I came to your door. Not the whole reason. I figured you'd tell me when you were ready. She nodded once. Mara locked my room. Her voice lowered. She said I owed her. For water. For using the heater too long. For not finishing the laundry run fast enough. Cade's posture straightened, quiet tension settling across his shoulders. She locked you out in that weather. She said it would teach me to work better. He absorbed this, jaw tightening briefly. That's not work. That's control. Linnea looked up, startled by the bluntness of his words. You're not going back there, he added. How can you know that? She asked. Because I won't let you, he said calmly. The room felt warmer for a moment. Not from the heater. Something else, something steady and grounding. Linnea tried to speak, but stopped. She looked down, then lifted her eyes again. If I stay here, what happens to your life? People will talk. They already talk, he said. I don't care. You should. Why? Because they'll say I'm using you, or that you're using me. And is that true? He asked. She shook her head. No. Then it's noise, he said. It'll fade. Her breath smoothed out slowly, as if she was letting a hidden weight fall off her chest. Cade finished his broth and stood. I'll repair that strap before I leave. It won't look new, but it'll hold. You don't have to, she said. I know, he replied. She watched him cross the room to grab a small repair kit. Something about his quiet practicality made her feel safer than she expected. He wasn't trying to impress her, wasn't performing kindness. He was simply doing what he believed should be done. She sat back on the bench, the warm cup pressed to her palms. Cade, if I stay here tonight too, is that a problem? No. And if I stay longer? That's your choice, he said. Not Mara's. Not the neighbors. Not mine. Her lips parted slowly. She didn't smile, but her eyes softened in a way she hadn't allowed them to since she arrived. What do I do while you're gone? She asked quietly. Whatever makes you feel safe in the space, he answered. Eat. Rest. Explore the apartment if you want. But don't open the door unless you hear me say your name. Linnea looked at him for a long moment, as if testing the truth of his words. All right. He picked up the dress carefully and inspected the torn strap. It should take 10 minutes, he said. She set her cup aside, stood, and stepped closer to him. The shirt brushed her thighs with each movement. You keep fixing things, she said softly. He glanced toward her. It's what I'm trained for. Her eyes stayed on him, steady and open. Maybe, or maybe you just don't like seeing people break. Kate didn't deny it. He returned to the small repair kit and threaded the needle. Linnea stood near the heater, her hair catching the warm light, her fingers lightly touching the collar of the shirt she wore. For the first time, she looked like she believed she wasn't about to be thrown back into the rain. And she didn't move toward the door. Kate finished the last stitch on the torn strap and set the dress gently on the rack. The repaired seam looked clean and sturdy. Linnea watched him from near the heater, her arms loosely wrapped around her waist, the oversized shirt hanging unevenly over her hips. The morning had grown quieter. The rain outside softened into a thin mist, leaving the balcony glass faintly fogged. She stepped closer as he packed away the repair kit. "You're precise," she said. "Habit," he answered. "No," she corrected softly. "Careful. There's a difference." He paused, then met her eyes. She held his gaze longer than she ever had. Steady, searching, unafraid. She came to stand beside him, close enough that the warmth of her skin touched the air between them. Her fingers brushed the edge of the repaired strap, then slid to the sleeve of the shirt she wore. "You keep making this place feel safe," she said, "and I don't know what to do with that." "You don't have to do anything," he said. "I know." Her voice lowered. "But I want to." She reached out and touched his forearm lightly, as if testing whether he would pull away. He didn't. Her touch stayed, soft but deliberate. His pulse kicked once beneath her fingertips, something she felt even through his skin. Linera drew one slow breath, steadying herself. "Last night, I slept without fear. That hasn't happened in months." "You were exhausted," he said. "I was safe," she corrected again. He didn't argue. She stepped even closer, closing the remaining space between them. Her hips brushed his. Her hand slid from his forearm to the front of his shirt, curling lightly into the fabric. She looked up at him. No hesitation now, only a quiet decision forming behind her eyes. "If I stay here," she said, "I want to stay as someone you hold, not as someone you shelter." Cade's breath tightened for a moment, controlled but real. "Are you sure?" "Yes." Her answer came without pause, without uncertainty. She lifted her free hand to the collar of his shirt and touched the scar near his shoulder. The contact was gentle, almost cautious, but intentional. He exhaled slowly, not moving away. She rose onto the balls of her feet and leaned into him, her forehead brushing his jaw. He placed one hand lightly at her waist, not pulling her, only resting there, giving her room to choose the rest. She chose it. She slid both hands along his chest, feeling the warmth beneath his shirt, then guided his other hand to her hip. Her breathing deepened, steady and slow. She didn't rush, didn't tremble. She simply moved closer until her body aligned with his, until the soft fabric of his shirt on her skin pressed fully to him. "Cade," she whispered, her voice low and warm. "You can touch me." He did, carefully, deliberately. His fingers traced the curve of her hip, then the small of her back beneath the loose shirt. Her skin rose slightly under his touch, heat blooming along the trail his hand made. Linera lifted her head and kissed him. It wasn't hesitant. It wasn't practiced. It was honest, slow, deep, and full of everything she hadn't said since she arrived dripping on his balcony. He returned the kiss with equal care, holding her waist as she pressed against him, her body soft and warm from the heater. She drew back only far enough to breathe. "I'm not doing this because I owe you," she said. "I'm doing it because, for once, I want something for myself." "Then take what you want," he replied quietly. She kissed him again, and this time her hand slid beneath the hem of his shirt, palms warm against his skin. He lifted her slightly, guiding her toward the couch with unhurried movements. She didn't resist. She wrapped her arms around his shoulders instead, legs brushing against his as they moved. They lowered onto the couch together, bodies aligned, breaths mingling. Her thigh rested across his, her fingers threaded into his hair. The shirt she wore shifted, opening along her shoulder, revealing more of her skin. He traced the edge of the collarbone she exposed, earning a soft inhale from her, sharp, intimate, real. Her legs tightened around him, guiding him closer. He supported her with one hand behind her back, the other sliding along her thigh in a slow, steady line. She leaned into the touch, her lips brushing his neck, her breath warm against his skin. "Cade," she murmured, voice trembling now not from fear, but from wanting. "Don't stop." "I won't," he said. The moment unfolded naturally. No rush, no force. Only two people learning the shape of each other's closeness through touch, breath, and the warmth of skin against skin. Their movements deepened, lengthened, building from gentle pressure to fuller, deliberate contact. Linera's fingers tightened against his shoulders as she pulled him into her. His hands steadied her hips with slow, firm guidance. They moved together with growing certainty, their bodies aligning in a quiet rhythm that filled the small room. The heater hummed softly behind them, the rain easing into a distant patter, everything around them fading until only their breaths remained. When she finally relaxed into him, her body warm and heavy against his, she didn't move away. She stayed wrapped around him, cheek against his shoulder, her fingers still tangled in his shirt. He brushed a strand of her golden hair from her face. She looked up at him with softened eyes. "I've never chosen like this before," she whispered. He held her close, steady and warm. "You chose right." She rested against him without tension, without fear. She didn't move from his arms. Lynera stayed in Cade's arms long after the room settled back into silence. Her breathing slowed against his chest, her legs still loosely wrapped around him, her skin warm beneath the loose folds of the oversized shirt. Morning had shifted toward midday. Light gathered on the balcony glass in a pale, steady glow. She shifted slightly, not to pull away but to study his face. Her fingers brushed his jaw with a slow, careful touch, as if confirming he was still there and real. "Cade," she murmured, "do you regret this?" He ran his palm gently up her spine, steady and warm. "No." She searched his expression again, her amber eyes focused, almost firm now. "Not even a little." "Not even a little," he repeated. Her shoulders loosened, relief moving through her like a breath she'd been holding since dawn. She rested her forehead against his collarbone. "No one's ever wanted me without demanding something afterward." "I didn't demand anything," he said. "I know." She sat up a little straighter on his lap, her thighs bracketing his hips. The shirt slid along her torso, exposing a line of green skin at her side. She didn't adjust it. Her palms rested on his chest instead. "And that's the only reason I could do this." He wrapped one hand around her waist, thumb brushing the curve of her hip. "Then stay as long as you want." She looked at him with a seriousness he hadn't seen in her before. "If I stay, it changes things. For you. For me. I know. And you don't care?" "I care," he said, "but not in the way you think." She exhaled slowly, absorbing the certainty in his voice. Her fingers moved from his chest to the back of his neck, threading into his hair. She leaned forward, pressing a soft kiss against his jaw, less urgent than before, more deliberate. She paused there, lips resting against his skin. A quiet knock at the hallway door broke the moment. Lynera froze instantly. Her body tensed against him, breath caught in her throat. Her hands gripped his shoulders. "Don't answer," she whispered. Cade didn't move, didn't shift her off him. His hand stayed firm on her waist. "I'm not opening it," he said. Another knock, short, irritated. Lynera pressed her forehead into his shoulder. "It's her. Mara. She'll accuse me of stealing everything in here. She'll say I." Her voice cracked, not from fear alone, but from humiliation creeping up her spine. "Lynera," he said quietly, "look at me." She forced herself to lift her head. "You're not going back with her." Her chest tightened. What if she claims I owe her? What if she brings others? What if she tells the district office I stayed here? I'll handle her. Her fingers curled into his shirt again. "She can ruin things for you." "She won't." The knock came again, this time followed by Mara's sharp voice through the metal. "Cade, I know she's in there. Open the door. She belongs to my property list until she pays her balance." Lynera's breath stilled. Her eyes dropped, shame burning in her throat. Cade moved his hands to her hips and guided her gently off his lap, setting her beside him on the couch. She didn't let go of his wrist, even as he stood. "She doesn't belong to anyone," he said. "Cade, don't confront her. She'll say I took advantage of you." He squeezed her hand. "She can say whatever she wants." He pulled on his work shirt and walked toward the door with steady steps. Lynera sat upright, hands clenched in the blanket she had slept under, her body angled toward him as if ready to stop him if she needed to. The repaired dress hung behind her on the rack, a reminder of the life waiting if she left. Cade opened the door only as wide as necessary. Mara stood in the hallway with two other tenants behind her, arms folded tightly across her chest. Her hair was pinned back so harshly it lifted her eyebrows. "Cade, She owes time, water, and late fees, Mara snapped. She left in the middle of shift. That's abandonment. She's responsible for her. She's not coming back, Cade said. Mara blinked. Excuse me? You locked her out in the rain. That ends any claim you think you have. That's not your decision. It is now. Mara leaned to look past him, try to glimpse inside. Cade shifted his stance, blocking her view entirely. Don't make this worse for yourself, she said in a clipped voice. People talk. They'll assume. I don't care what people assume. Mara's face twisted with irritation. You're taking responsibility for her? Is that what you're implying? Yes, he said. Silence washed through the corridor behind her. Even the two tenants straightened, surprised. Cade didn't raise his voice. He didn't step forward. He just held the door like a barrier built exactly for this moment. If you come back, he said calmly, you'll leave immediately. No shouting, no threats. She doesn't work for you anymore. Mara's jaw twitched. We'll see what the district says. You do that, he replied, and tell them why you locked a tenant outside during a storm. Her expression flickered. Only a second, but enough. She spun on her heel sharply, muttering something to the tenants, who followed her in uneasy silence. Cade closed the door and locked it. When he turned back, Linera was standing beside the couch, holding the blanket close to her chest. Her eyes were wide, not frightened, but overwhelmed. You didn't have to do that, she whispered. Yes, I did. She stepped toward him slowly. The blanket slipped down her arms, revealing the soft curve of her skin, the way the shirt draped unevenly across her torso. She stopped in front of him, lifting one hand to his chest. No one has ever stood for me like that. You deserve someone who does. Her breath shook. She moved closer, leaning her forehead against his sternum. He wrapped his arms around her without hesitation. She clutched his shirt, pulling herself against him. Cade, she murmured, voice breaking softly. I want to stay here. Not just today. Not just because I'm scared to leave. He lowered his chin, brushing his jaw against her hair. Then stay. She breathed out, slow, relieved, full. Her next words were quiet, certain. Then I'm yours. She lifted her head and kissed him again, deeper than before, slower, with no fear left in the movement. Her body pressed into him, warm and trusting, her hands sliding up his back. He held her close, guiding her gently, grounding her as she leaned into him fully. When the kiss broke, her lips hovered near his. Tonight, I want to sleep beside you again. You will, he said. She rested against him, her fingers lightly gripping his waist. She didn't pull away. She didn't even think of the door anymore. The afternoon settled into a quieter rhythm, the kind that made the apartment feel smaller but warmer, as if it finally recognized two people living inside it instead of one. Linera moved through the space with a different posture now. Shoulders loosened, steps quieter, but no longer cautious. She folded the blanket she'd slept under, set her cup in the sink, and looked back at Cade as he secured the door again. He checked the lock once more, then turned to her. She won't come back today. Linera nodded. And after today, I'll deal with it. She watched him for a long moment. There was no bravado in his voice, no forced reassurance, just a fact stated plainly. She crossed the room to him, her bare feet making soft sounds on the floor. The oversized shirt slid along her hips as she moved, the collar still slightly off one shoulder. You meant it, she said. Everything you told her. I did. Then I need to know what I am to you now. He stepped closer, closing the space between them. You're someone I choose. Her expression tightened, not from fear, but from something deeper. She lifted her hand to his chest, palm flat against the fabric. Then let me choose you back. He held her waist, steady and certain, and the quiet between them turned warm again. But this time she didn't kiss him immediately. Instead, she eased down onto the couch, sitting with her knees folded to one side, eyes still locked with his. She traced the edge of the blanket she had folded earlier, thinking, Cade, she said softly, Mara wasn't wrong about one thing. What's that? People will talk. She tilted her head slightly. About us. He sat beside her. Let them. Her lips curved. Not a smile, but the beginning of something close. If I stay here, it shouldn't be a secret. It won't be. Then, we should make it official, she said. The words came slow, deliberate. Your district has a registry, doesn't it? For shared households. For partnerships. He studied her, making sure she wasn't saying it out of fear. Is that what you want? Yes, she said without hesitation. I don't want to be moved like property again. Not by her. Not by anyone. She reached for his hand, sliding her fingers between his. If I'm with you, I want it written as my choice. He squeezed her hand. Then we'll go tomorrow. She exhaled, relief and steadiness mixing into something grounding. She leaned into his shoulder, letting him wrap an arm around her. For a moment they stayed like that, her golden hair brushing his collar, her breath warm against his neck. I've never belonged anywhere, she murmured. You belong here, he said. She lifted her head, meeting his eyes again. Then tonight, I want to sleep in your room, not on the couch. He pressed his forehead lightly to hers. You will. When evening arrived, the rain returned, steady, familiar, drumming softly against the balcony rail. Linnea stood near the heater, brushing droplets from her hair after washing. She wore her street dress now, the repaired strap holding cleanly. It fit her differently today, less like a uniform of survival, more like clothing she had chosen to acknowledge her past before stepping into something new. Kate emerged from the bathroom, drying his hands. Ready for dinner? What are we having? Root stir-bake and grilled strips. She blinked. Real meat. A neighbor sold me a batch last week. I've been saving it. For what? He looked at her with quiet certainty. For someone worth sharing it with. She took in a slow breath, then moved to help him prepare the meal. She sliced the varan root. He handled the grill pan. The smell filled the apartment. Warm, savory, sharp at the edges. She tasted a piece when he offered it to her, the crisp outside and tender inside melting on her tongue. It's good, she said quietly. You need real food, he replied. She noticed he set the larger portion on her plate. She didn't argue. They ate close together at the small table, knees brushing lightly beneath the surface. She didn't pull away. Neither did he. When they finished, she stood and wiped her hands on a cloth, then turned toward him with a steady expression. Take me to your room. He didn't say anything. He simply walked with her down the short hall. The room was small, warm, and clean. The bed was simple, with a dark blanket stretched neatly across it. Linnea stopped at the foot, her eyes scanning the space as if absorbing the reality that this room now held space for her too. She turned to him. Do you want me here? Yes, he said, no hesitation. She stepped closer, placing her hands on his waist, fingers curling into his shirt. Then hold me again. He did, lifting her gently, guiding her onto the bed with slow, unhurried movements. She lay beneath him, muscles relaxing as she wrapped her legs around him, pulling him close. Their bodies found each other with familiarity now, their breaths sinking as she traced her fingers along his back, grounding herself in the solidity of him. The shift from closeness to intimacy was natural, warm, and certain. She moved with him, responding to every touch, every breath, her voice soft against his neck. There was no fear in her now, only choice, only desire. His hands traced the curve of her waist, the line of her thigh, the subtle rise of her breath. She held him close, her skin warm beneath his palms, her hips guiding his with a quiet, deliberate rhythm. When the moment ended, she stayed molded against him, chest rising slowly, her fingers tangled in the fabric of his shirt. Cade, she whispered, tomorrow when we register, what do I call you? Whatever feels right, he said. She rested her cheek on his shoulder. Then I think I'll call you my husband. He tightened his hold on her, not in surprise, but in acceptance, as if the word already fit the space between them. She closed her eyes, peaceful now. And you can call me your wife. He pressed his lips to her hair. I already do. Much later, when the rain softened into a distant hum and the room grew dim, Linnea shifted slightly, one hand sliding to rest low on her abdomen. Not with urgency, but with a quiet, instinctive hope she didn't speak aloud yet. Cade covered her hand with his. They lay there together, warm and still, the weight of the world beyond the apartment finally quiet. She didn't move away. She didn't plan to.